Miss Okafor had always believed hard work protected people from tragedy. That morning in Abuja, she arrived early, dressed sharply, confident and prepared for the biggest presentation of her career. The boardroom lights reflected off her laptop screen as she reviewed slides worth 100 million naira to the company. Everything she had worked for stood inside that room. Her phone vibrated. She ignored it. It vibrated again. Stepping outside, she answered and froze. Her mother's voice was weak, trembling, barely holding together. "My chest hurts. I cannot breathe well," she whispered from the village. The line went dead. Minutes later, the hospital started calling. Miss Okafor rushed to her boss, her hands shaking, words stumbling out like broken glass. "Sir, please, my mother has heart failure. I need emergency leave." The boss leaned back, calm, cold, unmoved. "There is a presentation today that will bring 100 million to this company. You are the only one who can handle it. I will not allow you to abandon this responsibility." Her phone rang again. The hospital. Again. She stood frozen between duty and blood, ambition and breath. The presentation began without her consent, her slides projected as her heart broke silently. Halfway through, another call came. This time, she didn't ask permission. She shut her laptop. She walked out. By evening, she was seated at the crowded Abuja bus station, clutching a small bag, eyes hollow, surrounded by strangers and noise. As the bus engine roared toward her village, her phone buzzed once more. A termination message. She closed her eyes. Everything she knew was gone. Miss Okafor arrived in the village at dawn, dust clinging to her shoes and fear pounding inside her chest. The familiar red earth felt strange beneath her feet, as if she no longer belonged there. Neighbors recognized her immediately and whispered prayers as she rushed past mud houses toward the small clinic at the edge of the village. Inside, the smell of antiseptic mixed with heat and despair. A tired nurse looked up and sighed before speaking. "She has been asking for you," the woman said softly. Miss Okafor's legs weakened as she entered the narrow ward. Her mother lay on a thin hospital bed, chest rising unevenly, eyes dim but still searching.
"Mom, I'm right here."
When she saw her daughter, a faint smile appeared. Miss Okafor dropped to her knees, holding her mother's frail hands, apologizing through tears for arriving late, for choosing work even briefly. The old woman shook her head slowly. "You tried," she whispered. "Life is harder than love sometimes." Her grip tightened once, then loosened. The heart monitor fell silent. The village mourned quickly, because grief was common there. By evening, women gathered, wailing, preparing the body, reminding Miss Okafor of customs she had almost forgotten. She moved through everything like a ghost, numb and hollow. That night, she sat alone outside her mother's mud house, staring at the sky. Abuja felt like another world. Her job, her dreams, her sacrifices suddenly felt meaningless. In the morning, the burial was simple. Earth covered dreams, just as it covered the body. As she boarded a bus back to the city, Miss Okafor felt something inside her break permanently. She was returning alone, with nothing left to lose. The road ahead promised pain, temptation, survival, and choices that would redefine her name, her body, her future, forever in brutal ways. Abuja welcomed Miss Okafor with noise, traffic, and indifference. The city did not pause for grief. She stepped out of the bus carrying a single bag and a heart too heavy for her body. Within hours of arriving, her phone buzzed with the message she had been dreading. Her employer officially terminated her appointment for abandoning a critical presentation. She still went to the office the next morning, hoping for mercy. The receptionist avoided her eyes. Security escorted her upstairs, where her former boss sat calmly, unmoved by tears or explanations. He reminded her of professionalism, commitments, and losses incurred by her absence. When she mentioned her mother's death, he sighed impatiently and slid termination papers across the table. By midday, she was unemployed. Days blurred together in her small rented room. Savings vanished quickly under rent, food, and transportation. Job applications went unanswered. Interviews ended politely, with promises that never came. Hunger became familiar. Silence became loud. One evening, while sitting outside a roadside bar to escape the heat, she met Sandra, an old acquaintance dressed in luxury and confidence. Sandra listened quietly, then smiled knowingly. She spoke of survival, of men who paid well, of clubs where beauty mattered more than certificates. Miss Okafor resisted at first. She remembered her mother's prayers, her former life, her pride. But pride does not pay rent. That night, she stared at herself in the mirror, seeing exhaustion instead of ambition. The city had stripped her of security, morality, and patience. Survival whispered louder than shame. By the end of the week, she followed Sandra into a world of neon lights and promises. She told herself it was temporary, just until she recovered. She did not know that once entered, some doors never reopen. And some paths only move forward, no matter how much you want to turn back. The club smelled of perfume, alcohol, and power. Miss Okafor stood near the entrance, heart racing beneath borrowed confidence. Her dress was tight, her heels high, her makeup flawless. The woman staring back from the mirror looked expensive, but her eyes still carried fear. Music thundered through her chest as men watched openly. Sandra guided her, teaching her smiles, posture, silence. Let them feel lucky, she whispered. Never explain yourself. That night, money exchanged hands without conversation. By morning, her rent was paid. Food filled her kitchen. Fear softened. Days turned into nights. Nights turned into routine. Luxury restaurants replaced hunger. VIP lounges replaced loneliness. She learned to laugh on command, to disappear emotionally, to detach pleasure from feeling. Men came with promises and cars. One arrived in a Lamborghini, keys tossed casually, wealth flaunted effortlessly. Soon, she was known. Beautiful. Available. Expensive. They called them the Lamborghini babes. Social media followed. Envy followed. Judgment followed. But so did money. Miss Okafor moved into a luxury apartment. Designer clothes replaced grief. Champagne replaced tears. She sent money home, donated quietly, silencing guilt with generosity. Yet every night, when makeup came off, silence returned. She dreamed of her mother, of an office desk, of who she once was. Wealth bought comfort, not peace. One night, staring at the city lights from her balcony, she wondered when survival turned into surrender. When necessity became habit. When choice disappeared. She told herself she was in control. That this life was temporary. That one day, she would leave. But the city does not release what it crowns. And luxury has a way of tightening its grip the more you rely on it. The neon lights kept shining. And Miss Okafor kept walking deeper, dressed beautifully, losing pieces of herself quietly. Fame arrived quietly. Miss Okafor's name traveled through whispered recommendations and private numbers. She no longer waited outside clubs. Cars came for her. Expensive cars. Fast cars. Lamborghinis that roared like authority. She learned power had faces. Politicians, executives, men who spoke softly and controlled everything. With them, she was valued, desired, protected. Or so it seemed. Money stacked up. Investments followed. She bought land, property, security. Her lifestyle became aspiration for others. Girls watched her enter clubs and imagined freedom. But freedom had rules. Clients demanded exclusivity, loyalty, silence, control disguised as care. She smiled through discomfort, convincing herself she was winning. After all, she had survived what once destroyed her. One night, after a long dinner in a luxury restaurant, she sat alone in her apartment, surrounded by wealth. Bags, shoes, cash. Everything she prayed for once. She felt empty. She removed her makeup slowly, staring at her reflection. The woman looking back was strong, polished, successful, and deeply tired. Her phone rang. Another booking. Another night. Another transaction. She remembered the office she walked out of. The bus station. Her mother's final breath. Every step that led her here. Miss Okafor realized she had not failed. She had adapted. But adaptation carried cost. She did not know if she would ever live this life. But she promised herself one thing. No matter how fast the cars became, she would not forget where she started. And someday, she would slow down. Because even Lamborghini engines eventually stop. And when silence comes, only truth remains.